All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun. And this is like take 4. I've tried to record this. Well, I successfully recorded this yesterday on Thanksgiving, but I wasn't liking how it kind of went in circles. And then I tried recording it twice over this morning, and my internet was having issues. And now I'm in my car on my phone recording this. So hopefully the audio isn't so bad, but we'll see. So anyway, welcome to my channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun, and we are talking about Stranger Things season 4, as if you couldn't figure that out already. So I'm very excited to talk about this. That's why I was like willing to record this many times, and I'm actually holding off on releasing my Enola Holmes discussion video because I wanted to get this one out first. I wanted to like talk about this and then that, and here we are. So hopefully this sounds good and you hear it and whatever, and this is all good. So if you like what we're doing here on the channel, make sure to hit like, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications, all that shit. And yeah, let's go. So background as usual, like it's been a long time. This is I have not had Netflix in a while. That's why we're doing this month or two of Netflix session of videos. Help partially to help me get back in the groove of things, getting back into on camera stuff. But there's been a lot of stuff to talk about, and Stranger Things was one of the first things I ever talked about on my channel. I did the whole proverbial, I bought the t-shirt before I was done with the first episode practically. I had the t-shirt, I got the poster, everybody loved it, and it was fun to talk about. And all the other seasons, I got the poster, and I've tried all the, I've tried like I think there was like Stranger Things pop or something. There's even Stranger Things pizza. I sell Surfer Boy pizza at my store. There's like 4 different kinds. So I mean, it's hard to not, it's I really didn't realize how big Stranger Things was because I've just kind of fallen off of social media, and because I just now finally watched Stranger Things season 4, I just still didn't realize how big of an impact, or at least how much Netflix has, been like really promoting this and selling things from the show and all that. I just got my T-shirt and my poster, and I was pretty much good. So I loved the first 3 seasons. I would have covered this, but I got rid of Netflix because of I don't, I'm kind of unhappy with their approach to things, but I'm unhappy with their approach to like basically all the streaming services because it's all playing out exactly as I thought. They're all gonna break apart and then they're gonna all come back together, and we're still gonna get charged a shitload more money to watch their stuff. But I digress. So, but that doesn't change the quality of the show. And I was really kind of nervous about going into this because I remember enough about season 3 to go, okay, is this, how big of a jump is this going to be? And to be honest, the only thing that I had a real difficult problem with was like the first couple of episodes, kind of moving the story forward, but we'll get further into that. So like, yeah, Stranger Things season 4 as a whole, I mean, man, it was massive. 9 episodes, all basically an hour or more long. The last few are like huge, huge, huge. So I mean, you got 9 episodes, but you really got more like 12 or 13, maybe even close to 14 hours of content. They're jam-packed with their dense episodes. And again, I want to continue to talk about how I love watching shows that feel like shows and not big chopped up movies like I've been experiencing on other freaking streaming services. Um, and that's how, like, one of my only beefs with this season is that it's the inevitable, like, beginning of the end event stuff. The first 3 seasons have been building to this, and it really feels epic. I was like thinking of it like this is like the Goonies Avengers Endgame. You know what I mean? Like everything's coming down to this. Turns out it's not. Turns out there's still a little bit more to go. But this really, like, even though it was episodic in nature still, this was like one ginormous movie where everybody's like, all like, you've got our party all separated, which I thought was one of its weaker points. Probably due to COVID, stuff where, you know, it was like easier to keep like, you know, everybody a little bit apart. I don't know. Maybe it was planned like this from, you know, the jump. But I really wish that our characters would have gotten together a little bit, like not until the very end. Like you had all these people just everywhere. And that's what I mean. Like everybody was taking care of their part of the big event. All these pieces had to come together in this movie for everyone to succeed, and everybody working together as a unit and family and bringing people in that, you know, you wouldn't expect to be friends together or people that can be won over. It was really satisfying season to watch, even if it was a little frustrating that we didn't get, you know, a lot of what you get in a Stranger Things episode. But because everything was building to this, like I I'm trying to consider the fact that seasons 1 through 3 were our big, all the huge amount of character development you got in those 3 seasons is paying off here. Like all the growth and everything, and even more growing that's going on and changes going on still. But like it's all kind of come to this, and everybody is who they are, even if like you got Lucas who wants to be popular. Like he's still changing, but he's still Lucas. Do you know what I'm saying? We don't need, like, there's not need for more piling on of extra character work. It's just them getting older, separating as friends a little bit, as things that just happens. And so any of my little nitpicks I have about this really can be explained away, excused away, other than outside of any personal like things that I might have, like, oh, I just don't like this personally because it rubs me the wrong way, or a performance maybe is bugging me or whatever. Those are all mostly personal choices because everybody's really good in this. As cliche filled and nostalgia drenched and trope filled that this all is, it still ends up being very satisfying. Like this is what you would call blockbuster television. Like there's blockbuster movies that leave you all just satisfied and sitting in there, popcorn addled and soda caffeinated, and nachos and everything that you enjoy at the theater, and it's all part of the experience. And you go to see like Transformers or Roland Emmerich movie or whatever. You walk out and you, this is like that kind of thing, but for small screens. And it's just that it had to like exercise the smaller stories to tell, you know, we're in the big one now, we're in the end game. And so it's still though great seeing the kids keep getting better as actors um on this show. And I usually have my like my IMDb up for all the cast. So I don't, because I'm using my phone. So some of the names of the actors I'm going to forget, you know, because I don't have them in front of me. But everybody has really upped their game. I really love that these are, you know, like when they cast these kids, they kept these kids. They didn't like if any of them have, they've hit their awkward phases. A lot, you know, some of these kids have hit their awkward phases. They're in between, and they didn't like recast, like, oh, you know, we need to find a more attractive or, you know, like something more, you know, less real to look at. These kids all are going through the, you know, the changes of growing up. And I love that they didn't, you know, haven't like hid the fact that these should look and feel like real kids, even if it's, you know, all really, you know, it's all scripted. Um, but I want to point out my favorite character of this entire show, besides like my love for Dustin and Steve, especially Dustin and Steve together, and honorable mention this year for Eddie, who came on the scene. I freaking loved Eddie a lot. He is Eddie's story, and this story in particular with is reminds me of the best of Stephen King. A lot of the best of his stuff deals with kids. This show is, you know, not just an homage to Goonies, but to also those kind of movies as well. And Eddie is that character who, like, because spoilers, I'm not going episode to episode with everything, folks, but Eddie's that character in a Stephen King book that you just love. You know, he's full of life and he's being, you know, pursued. He's innocent of the thing that they're accusing him of, and you really get behind him, and you know you really are rooting for him. You want his friends to find him, you want him to be exonerated. You know, he's the heavy metal guy who sells pot and mushrooms and stuff, but he's a good person. He's the, you know, like that he's still a person. He's not just a caricature of like these stoner, like he's wrapped up in the package of that, but then they let him talk. There is another character in this show that is that character and the cliche at the same time, but we'll talk about him in a minute. But like Eddie's that character that you just don't know like who people really are unless you get to know him. And he's also like they might say Mike is the heart of their friends group, but Eddie's also the heart of this is the heart of this season, really. There's a few hearts really in this season, but one of them is Eddie. And you know how Stephen King likes to kill your heart, you know? Well, you know, Eddie's sacrifice in this season was hard, and it's supposed to be hard, and there's supposed to be sacrifice. There's supposed to be loss, and there's supposed to be stakes, and it's supposed to be real, and you know, not everything just ends happily. I was a little like I almost wanted Max to die too in this season because not because I was just waiting for a body count, but because it would have made it like even more like, oh my God, they killed her. Not like for some vicarious thrill, but to show more of the stakes. Like when she's floating up in the air near the end and they're breaking their bones, I'm like, oh my, they're doing it. They're doing it. And they backed off at the end, but just still like great. But to get back on track with who my favorite character is of this entire series, besides again Dustin, Steve, and all that other stuff, it's Lucas's sister, man. Lucas's sister is my favorite character on the show, and again, why don't you know her name? I can't. You know, I've got a lot of thoughts flying around in my head. I have no notes. This is all stream of consciousness, so you're just gonna have to forgive me on the whole not knowing names thing right now. But she is my favorite character on this show, bar none. She gives as good as she gets. She's smart, she's intelligent, she's sassy, and she's, you know, just I don't know, man. She seems really capable. I love it, you know? Like she's confident in herself and you know, like, I can't wait to see more of her as this show goes on, man. She should get her own spinoff. I don't know. Maybe not, but I can't wait to see what that actress is going to do. Just like the girl from I was talking about in the House of Usher, the girl from Doctor Sleep. Fantastic to see her in that, and because of how good she was in Doctor Sleep, you know, like some of these youngsters coming up are going to be awesome. Um, and so to continue really to break down like this season, right? It's in kind of like let's talk about it in the parts that it is. And we'll start with Hopper and we'll start with Joyce and and Brett Gelman's character and Jack and Hagar. And again, because I don't have my IMDb in front of me, I can't remember all the actors' names, especially the ones that are hard to say. Um, but they needed look. Everybody had like Hopper's in Russia. How do we get him back? And you've got 11 with Mike and Joyce and them, you know, and Jonathan out in California. And then you got the rest of the Hawkins gang, which is like Dustin and Lucas and Steve and Nancy and Lucas's sister and Ethan Hawke's characters, Maya Hawke's character. They're all back in Hawkins. And so you got the stuff that's going on in Hawkins that no one knows about, and you got the stuff going on with Hopper where they don't know how to get him out, and then you got 11 just trying to be a kid out in uh, California. And actually, it does start out with everybody in Hawkins except for her and like Jonathan and Will, right? So we'll talk about Hopper's thing first. So who they had to do something with Joyce's character, right? They couldn't send the kids to get him out, so this is Winona Ryder's arc for the show is getting Hopper out. And this was my least favorite part of the show, even though like saying that it's all good. It's just again, my criticism was I really wish we hadn't spent so much time at the prison and that we could have gotten our characters back in some way, shape, or form. But whatever restrictions they had to do, or however the writers did this, it's their choice. You know, this is how it is. But the performances were great. Uh, I love that they're the ones dealing with the Demogorgons. I love that Jaqen Hagar is the guy on the inside. I love Yuri and his never-ending like betrayals. And I love Brett Gelman here, who's usually look, his shtick is he's basically this guy to varying degrees of evilness. Like he's either chaotic good or chaotic evil or just straight up evil in most things. And he does it with that charm and smarminess though that everybody, that you can like. But it can wear thin and it's gotten old in some things where I'm just like, okay, it's just him doing this thing. He's been kind of typecast. But hey, an actor's gotta, feed himself. So but somehow that character, that shtick really worked here. They gave him something, I liked that he really begins to come around. At first, like he's not really realizing the stakes of this. It's a little bit like a weird Spies Like Us kind of situation where two people who should not be going over to Russia to like help get a guy out of jail. You know what I mean? Like it's Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase, but breaking into a prison, and it's Winona Ryder and Matt Gelman instead. Um, it was all really fun. The Demogorgon stuff was super violent and again, super tropey, action movie lines up the wazoo. But David Harbour is charming as hell and exciting and fun to watch. And when you pair him up with a guy that's like, and I'm gonna just keep calling him Jaqen Hagar, everybody, um, like just everybody's chemistry so fantastic, and how they get out of there and everything is just it was just really entertaining, if not like again pretty predictable. But again, this show is not supposed to be. It's not like it's supposed to be comfortable. It's supposed to feel good when you're watching it, like the very last second rescue type of show, right? It's that. And so I really, really dug it. I loved when they finally got back together when he comes in and he just sees 11 and he's like, hey, kid, and all this. It's all earned. The 3 seasons that came before this, all the great long ass episodes and what everybody's been through, it's all been earned and all. Like I wanted to complain about having like a bit of a long ending, but which turns into the next thing, but it's all earned. So I can't really complain about it. The next bit would be it's hard to pick between these, but we're gonna have to go with probably 11's part. Now, this was the part that was hard for me to get through a little bit and early on was just watching her get bullied. I've been through what she's going through. A lot of people have of the moving around, leaving your friends behind. And then in her case, like having really only having friends for one bit of her life without like the horrors that she'd grown up with. I could see why this would be even more affecting her. But like, remember they teach, one of the mantras of this show was like, friends don't lie to each other. And this is where all the lies start. And she's hiding like how miserable she is. And just how good these 80s dickheads were at acting like 80s dickheads in movies it was a little hard to watch. It was a little hard to watch. It was a little cringy because I'm just like, man, somebody punch these kids. And when she hits her with the skate, I was fine with it. I was fine with it. I don't care. I know it's terrible. Oh my God, she could have killed her. I'm a terrible person for wanting vengeance on bullies. Bullies are created by. Okay, I'm just gonna stop there. But once we finally get past that, I mean, look, the whole purpose was she had to get caught and she had to get on the radar. They had to find a way to get her out of there so that the story could kick off. So that's what they chose. And it's fine. And her and Mike, their situation. And then you got Jonathan and the stoner. Okay. Argyle. Look, I like my Argyles in Die Hard or in Socks. Okay. By the time Argyle got to be where I finally accepted this character, it was too late in the game and they had nothing left for him to do. And the Eddie version of the pothead rockers stoner or whatever was a much better portrayal than this guy who was just, I know he's supposed to be this way, but the shtick got old for me and it's not the actor's fault. He's the Spicoli. I did like when, the Surfer Boys are all basically the same guy working there, just a little bit different. So, I mean, again, by the time that the show let me like him, Like I was able to find something to like about the character. I didn't care anymore. Jonathan's whole thing with Nancy, that doesn't pay off right, I don't think. I think that like she was gonna break up with him, but then they don't, or what? Did they just rethink things? Because, you know, sometimes in the heat of moments, you can forget that you are still in love with somebody just because they're away and you have problems. Maybe, you know, it's time to deal with them. And if that's what they were trying to do, great. But if they were just doing it because, you know, he's got to have that moment where Jonathan goes, just go to him, man. Just go to Steve. Take him, baby. So I hope they don't do that, but that's what it feels like. It feels like they're going to turn Jonathan into Ducky from Pretty in Pink, but what do I know? Um, so that was a little whatever. Again, it's teenager stuff. I liked it when I was a teenager. I'm a grown up now, and so it's just a little bit like whatever. But it's got to be there because they're kids. They're not. It's not like Jonathan's, you know, going to suddenly start dating Helen Mirren or something like that. So the stuff though with the military, once they got there with Paul Reiser and Matthew Modine, who I think are great playing off of each other. Matthew Modine is just really owning this character. He's over the top. He's like basically a real life version of the Robot Chicken guy, even just a little more tempered. Just the way he looks with the big white hair and everything. But this is some great work that he gets to do in here, where they actually get to really flesh out his character a bit more and really show the psychosis and the warped sense of what he right and wrong that he has. Really fantastic. And then Paul Reiser, who I've always liked, I don't care. I liked Mad About You. Okay. Um, is a great balance to this guy. He's the good cop. It's the bad scientist, good scientist thing. Except, you know, the good scientist is also probably he's been around for some pretty bad shit too. He's the lesser of two evils, basically, you know? One smiles at you and one just says, get in the chair, you'll be fine. But their whole thing with getting her powers back and how that was filmed and shot psychologically, where we're introduced to one who turns out to be the film's real villain or the show's real villain. He's not Vecna. I do like that they, you know, that's what they associate him with. I think that that was great comparison. But the fact that this guy was like just torn asunder, thrown into another realm, and becomes what he becomes. Like that's some real super villain shit there, man. That's some Doctor Doom level crap. Like it was really cool to have a villain that just felt like a comic book, like a classic kind of comic book villain. That's just like, I don't know, like hanging out and like. This is where it like felt like a like 80s stuff guy hanging out in the haunted house, just stuck up there trying to. I don't know, but it was really fascinating. Sometimes I just was like, I would get lost and go, is it real? Is she dreaming? Because they would do a really good job at times. And I loved the whole put her in the tank thing, which is very Fringe from Fox, that show from a while back. If you haven't watched Fringe, go watch Fringe. I don't care what anybody says. I like all the seasons of that show. So but eventually when they have to get her out of there again, her taking down like all like I don't want to break down every single thing. I could sit here forever talking about every single thing, but the shit that she can do when she opens herself up, like it's great. All the action sequences here are fantastic. I wish that we saw Paul Reiser again. He just kind of disappears after they escape. But and Matthew Modine, well, you know, I know he's supposed to probably be dead, but whatever. You know, like if he just pops up again in this, don't be surprised, man. Don't be surprised if Matthew Modine shows up somehow in some fashion in the last bit of this show. Um, but them getting her in the bathtub, helping Max out, just all really, really fucking great, entertaining stuff, just start to finish. Like again, it started out slow for me, but the season just builds and builds and gives me more and more and more. I mean, I can't get like House of Usher. I don't really have too many things bad to say about. I don't think I had anything bad to say about House of Usher, but um now when we get to like because she fucks up Vecna. I mean, like this all starts to blur with the Hawkins stuff. So we'll talk about that now. So everybody else, like this is where we see the murders happening, and oh my gosh, little the Chrissy girl and the nerd helping Nancy and the guy from the the basketball team, or yeah, the basketball team, I think. Yeah, like all these kids just getting killed in horrible, horrible ways, and just really dark, and them doing the whole, the satanic panic thing in this. Fantastic. And especially because right now Dungeons and Dragons being so popular and getting bigger and bigger in the social consciousness, and it forces these fucks after all these years to look at themselves who thought this and say, guess what? We're all playing Dungeons and Dragons and no fucking kids are getting killed. Makes you wonder why we should take anything you fuckers say seriously. Every time you tell us to get freaked out, turns out it was nothing. So anyway, yeah, I'm liking this take much better, folks. So we get that, and like Eddie's to blame. Oh, he's the weirdo. And so they're chasing him around, right? And everybody's trying to find him, and our Hawkins gang are like Steve dragging everybody around. When they find, like, Maya Hawke's got her little crush, and Steve's got his things where he doesn't figure out, and it looks like him and Nancy are getting back together. And the thing was, I wasn't opposed to it. I wasn't opposed to it because it actually felt like, they had good chemistry. But that's because she was allowed to like be be around somebody that had, like if Jonathan was there, probably would have given them chemistry. All these characters are really good with each other. And so I totally bought that they would start having feelings for each other again. And maybe I do also like that they don't really do anything too much about it. Like maybe they're saving it, but I also like the prospect of, like, yeah, we're still attracted to each other. We're in a highly volatile situation, and this is just how it sometimes goes. You get feelings, and you have to like control yourself a little bit sometimes. Them finding like out how to get in and out of the upside down was great. I and the whole thing with the jocks and stuff, man, that got real dark, real creepy, like real small towny stuff that I'm used to and I've seen like all the time. And it just rings true. The parents, and how they're reacting in the church when they start pointing out the Hellfire Club and demonizing their own kids, and just how this stuff spirals out of control when a few fucking loonies can't explain something. Now, like the jock kid sees something, right? He finally sees something, but he chalks it up to it's the devil and they're all possessed. And what he does, I mean, the fact that near the end, like they had the two white jocks tackle the little black girl and then beat the shit out of her brother Lucas, like, fuck, man, that would have been triggering from some people out there. I mean, I can't believe they did it. I can't believe they were like, well, like we want to show like what this hatred does and what it causes, the consequences of like unchecked aggression and hatred when people don't have all the information and just choose to be willfully fucking ignorant out there. Here we go again. It's really hard sometimes to not just jump right down those rabbit holes. But that whole thing, their plan, all of it, make the do-it-yourself weapons, the trailer. I mean, there's just so many cool things. So many cool things. And I haven't even gotten to talk about like Dustin and Steve and their little bromance still that's going on. Just it was a lesser extent here. Everything was at lesser extents for these moments. But when in the big picture, when everything just is so incredible and you got 11 saving Max at the last second, who's, you think she's freaking dead, like, and turns out she's not, but like it all comes together. It's not all right, especially when it's really not all right. And the earthquake that happens, it really did happen, and there's people leaving their town, and you think, oh well, that the worst is over, and it's not, and it's gonna get even worse. And just because they got rid of the one thing, it's now spilling over, and the cracks are everywhere, and it's all spilling out, and holy crap, this is the end. And no, we still got a little bit more to go, and I just can't wait for it. This time I won't sleep on it. Next time when Stranger Things' final season's coming out, I'm definitely going to be down to watch and cover it. because I would have really liked to do an episode to episode thing of these shows. I try to stay away from new stuff nowadays, and I want to talk more about the things I love. But man, when some of this stuff is just too good to not talk about, we're gonna end up talking about it. So as long as everything is still the way it is. So I want to thank everybody who chose to watch this all the way through to the end, because I know this is like the last person in the world to finally talk about Stranger Things. But I had a lot of fun talking about it, and I hope you had a little bit of fun listening to me talk about it. And if you do like what I do here, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, all that crap, and get ready for more cool stuff as the days, weeks, months, and who knows how long goes along. So have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.